no regular thing. Came for the ring, you know what I mean. I shoot my shot and it's clean. This from my city, yeah, this from my team. If you talking, it's all to me nice. I play with all of my life. You see my name in the lights. Better get right, I'm a champion. I'm a team. If you talking, it's all to me nice. I play with all of my life. You see my name in the lights. Better get right, I'm a champion.
What's up and welcome, everybody. It is YSN Live on this Wednesday, the 22nd of January, 2025. DJ Yoakley, Anthony Hartwig, and it's Wrestling Wednesday, first of the YSN Live era, and it's all brought to you thanks to our friends at Greenwood Chevrolet. Momentarily, we'll bring the voice of wrestling on here, Gary Altizer. But before we get to that, Ant, how was your night?
Oh, it was good. It was a good night. We had a couple of basketball games get played, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the later half of the show. But it's still another night where a lot of games didn't get played because of the cold weather. And I tried to stay warm the best I could. That was my night.
And you were loopy. You're on those pain meds now, dude.
Yep.
So
Yep.
slow-mo and all drugged up. So feeling like you've never felt before. Feeling better?
Yeah. Well, it's not healed yet. You know, one day, and I'm still hurting over here. But
does it feel better when you're all loopy?
But yeah, because I'm sleeping.
I love it.
That's crazy.
I love it. All right, it is Wrestling Wednesday, so without further ado, we want to pay, be able to give credit where credit is due. And with that, our next guest joins us, and ladies and gentlemen, he is the host of Cherry Pickers. He is also the mayor of Wellsville for us here at YSN. He is the ultimate when it comes to wrestling. He knows the ins, the outs, and all the grappling and all the moves, and keeps us all up to date. He is our tribal chief. Ladies and gentlemen, we give it up for Gary Altizer. What's up, buddy?
I don't know about that intro. I feel like everybody listening needs to cut that in half and then take about 90% off of that, and then you'll get the real me. But I appreciate that very much, DJ. Thank you.
You're a legend, dude. We got to give credit where credit's due. I thought that was all. I mean, the mayor of the Wellsville thing might be. But to me, my friend, my brother, yes, you are the mayor of Wellsville and never will be. Well,
I think the actual mayor is doing a great job, and I'm going to let him continue that.
Spoken like a true mayor right there. Like a true politician. Gary, I mean, what's been going on in the world of wrestling? We saw EOWL's, kind of concluded, and obviously a lot of success in the YSN world with the EOWL tournament. You know, where do we stand when it comes to today and moving forward with wrestling? What have you seen? What are the trends? What's going on?
Well, as of this Saturday, we'll be officially 4 weeks away from sectional. So we're heading into the last part of the season here. It's gone by fast. Just this past week, 2 huge tournaments, the Alliance Top Gun tournament, and then, of course, the OVAC tournament just happened. And then we have the Hepner tournament at Austintown Fitch coming up this weekend, as well as the East Palestine Bulldog Invitational, first year for that's coming up. So the season is winding down as far as tournaments go. Within the next few weeks, the tournaments will kind of wrap up, and then you'll have your league tournaments. And then most teams have at least the last week, if not the last 2 weeks off before sectionals to kind of heal up, get their guys' weights in check, and then get ready for sectionals in the postseason.
I was just going to ask you, endurance this time of year. It's got to be something that, you're fighting through a lot of it mentally, physically, the ailments, the frustrations. If you're dealing with weight issues up and down, we just got away from the holidays. It's got to be a really tough situation for these wrestlers this time of year, knowing, either the year is not gone your way or it has gone your way and you're trying to keep the snowball rolling downhill.
Yeah, I mean, it's a grind. It's a 4-month grind, and that's just the in season, doesn't count the out of season stuff. So you really have to pace yourself as a team, as a wrestler, and as a coach, you have to do the same. If you grind your kids too hard the first half or first 3/4 of the season, then you can suffer burnout at the end of the season. That's for sure. So you just have to keep an eye on your kids and their health, see where they're banged up. at least for me personally, it gets to the last half of the season, we kind of reel back a little bit in practice just because there's always some lingering injuries. And by this time, you should be technically pretty sound as a team. You should be in shape. Your weight should be pretty stable. So you're kind of just at this point sharpening things up, getting healthy, getting your minds right for the end of the season.
As we gear towards the end of the season, Gary, who are some programs and some wrestlers that have had really good starts that we have to really keep our eyes on as we get closer and closer to sectionals and districts in the state?
Yeah, in the YSN network, Austintown Fitches had a great year. Hubbard's had a great year. We've talked about them. We've had them guys on. Beaver Locals had a really good year. I could mention a whole bunch of teams, in the family. Those are the ones that stand out right away on top. Really, this is where the time of year where you'll really see, from last week on until the end of the season, where the best teams and also the healthiest teams will be the ones during sectionals and even districts. You'll see those teams winning sectionals are finishing in the top couple at the sectional tournament and sending 6, 7, 8 plus kids into the district tournament. Those are the teams that I thought that I could think of right off the top of my head. Salem's had a great year as well. They continue to have great teams with a lot of depth. So those are the teams I'll be keeping an eye on as far as the team aspect goes.
From a coach's standpoint, what does a coach have to prepare himself or herself for moving forward, from, February 1st on into what you talked about earlier, these tournaments that really make or break your season?
Well, you've got to, make sure your kids are at the weight that they're going to go, or if they're going down, anymore, you don't see a lot of kids dropping weight at sectionals. You used to see it a lot more. These days you don't see it. But if you do have them, hey, you got to make sure that you're monitoring it and that they're monitoring it, because it's a long season and it's a mental grind. And if they're kind of, every single week cutting a bunch of weight, by this time of the year, they could just be mentally, your kids could really just be fatigued. So you've got to help them monitor it. Hey, are you eating healthy? Are you, staying away from Mountain Dew, more water, less junk food, those kind of things. But if your kids are experienced, they should know that. And you have to also think about wrestle-offs. A lot of teams have their kids settled and their lineup settled at this point. But, a lot of teams will do a wrestle-off at the beginning of the season, one at the middle of the season, and then one before sectionals. So if you've got some competitive weights, you've got to think about those things as a coach and do your wrestle-offs and how you are going to approach the postseason. Because in wrestling, I don't know how it works in other sports, but as a district, all the coaches get together. It's by a point system, by how many weight classes you have filled, and the resume of each wrestler in the weight class will give you points towards your team. The higher your point total, the more options you have as far as picking your sectional. That's how it works in the Northeast District. So you've got a lot to think about heading into the end of the season.
Can you have someone, sorry, just a follow-up question. Can you have someone that, let's say you got two guys that, and this, I'm just pulling this out of the air, 157, and you have a wrestle-off. Can the loser of that wrestle-off, can you put them in the 160 or 153 or whatever it may be, wrestle in the tournament like that?
So, yeah, it'd be 150, 157, and 165. Yeah, you absolutely could. As long as their alpha weight assessment allows them to go that weight, yes, you could.
Explain that part. What does that mean?
So at the beginning of every season, every high school coach in Ohio has to have an alpha assessment or a weight assessment done for every wrestler on their team, where a certified assessor will come to you or you'll go to them. They'll measure every kid's weight, every kid's body fat, and every kid's hydration level. And first, your hydration level has to be adequate, or they tell you can't even test. They don't want anybody coming in there sucking weight. So once that's done, they'll take your weight, they'll take your body fat, they put it into a formula, and the state will dictate what weight you can wrestle every single day of the season. So if you have a wrestle off of two kids at 157, but one of the kids' alpha weight says they cannot drop to 150, then they would have to go up to 165 because at the sectional tournament, you can only have one wrestler per weight class per team.
I just learned something, Ant. Learned something new right there.
I feel like my mind was like the old X-Files meme where the numbers are hitting the screen. That's what I felt like.
A lot to think about, that's for sure.
I mean, is that a scenario where that happens a lot, I guess?
I mean, I'm from a small school. I've got
Right.
50 boys and girls per grade to pick from, and I got to battle against a great bowling program, a good basketball program, and a million other things. So I don't have a bunch of kids at each weight. I do have wrestle-offs. I've had several weight classes this year that had to wrestle off. But I'm sure, especially with the bigger schools, they do deal with that a lot. With me, probably 2 or 3 weight class I have to deal with it. There'll be other bigger schools that probably have 6, 7, 8, 10 weights to wrestle off. So yeah, it absolutely could happen. I guarantee you that it happens in the network.
Incredible. Ant, good.
You know, when you have wrestle-offs, and this is fun because you get some inter-team competition, and the old cliche is iron sharpens iron. How much does wrestling each other and competing with each other in that sense build team chemistry and be able to say, hey, we're pushing you, you're pushing me, let's get better together, let's see who's the best? How much do you think that inter-team competition helps with team chemistry in the locker room?
Oh, it absolutely helps with the kids pushing each other. You know, if they want to get that spot, they're going to bust their butts in practice. And it's a lot different when you wrestle somebody that's on your team because you're going to know that guy well. It's not going to be like an opponent that's never wrestled you before, maybe doesn't know anything about you. You know everything about this guy, probably. You're probably drilling partners with that person, or at least some of the time you're drilling partners. When you go live, you're wrestling that guy. So you know each other really well. And you'll see a lot of upsets that way too, where you'll have a guy that has done better throughout the year at the tournaments. But when they wrestle each other off, his opponent that's on his teammate that's wrestling him off knows his go-to moves, knows the counters to it, knows his weaknesses, those kind of things. But it goes both ways. It definitely helps build the work ethic in the room, and definitely it's absolutely probably the most competitive thing between teammates if you're talking about the season as a whole in the wrestling room. But I know for us, when we have wrestle-offs, I tell my kids, you sit off to the side, you do not cheer, you don't say a word, you don't root against your teammates. And whatever happens in this room stays in this room because at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. We're all here for each other. And it takes a lot of guts to get up in front of everybody on your team, in front of your coaches, and to say, I want to try to challenge for this weight because there are a lot of kids that will just defer to somebody that they think is better. So I always tip my cap to the kids that are willing to step up and challenge the varsity guy. And I don't want them to ever feel like anybody in that room is not on their side. So I lay that foundation down from day one of practice. And I think that that's a good way to approach it because it puts the kid, you're going to have friends, best friends are wrestling on the team. I just know I would never want any kid on my team to feel like they're not supported by anybody. And I think the kids embrace that. So there's a lot of dynamics to it.
It seems like it's like Lion King. Like you challenge the alpha lion, and then like you said, there's just a conversation that happens in that room, and it goes nowhere else. Much like a fraternity of sorts. So when you have that happen, there's a pride obviously that comes with it. How do you handle when you have a wrestle off and the young man or young lady comes up short? Is there a conversation that's had to keep their head up? I mean, you can lose a lot of confidence in a moment like that.
Absolutely. I just know as a coach, I make sure to go talk to both kids, and especially the one that doesn't win because some feelings can be hurt. But I do think that the rest of the kids on the team do gain a lot of respect for whoever steps up. So I think while in the moment it hurts, at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing. And I think it's a confidence builder for the kids too, because the kids that are challenging, they're coming in as the underdog. And, if they could take that mentality into the tournaments and the matches for the rest of the season, it's a good thing.
Gary, we've seen over the last probably 5 years, 10 years, just as a sample clip, being able to recruit students in your own hallways becomes more challenging and more challenging, especially with more sports being introduced to the OHSAA and being a varsity sport and activity. What are some of the obstacles that you've seen in your time as a wrestling coach to keep kids coming in? What have you heard about? What are some of the conversations you've had in the coaching ranks to keep kids coming to the mats each and every day and to keep them in the sport of wrestling?
That's a great question. I know over the years, Anthony and I, we've had this conversation before, but like I said a little bit ago, you have to compete against basketball. It's one of the most popular sports, not only in the country, but in the world. And every year there are wrestlers who maybe have wrestled their elementary years and their junior high years, and they say they want to try out basketball and they never come back. So you have to battle against that. Bowling is beginning to be more and more popular in the state. I know we at Wellsville, we have an amazingly successful bowling team. If you would do their average wins per year, they win like 20 matches per year. They win their league. They have the MVP every single year, it seems like. I think they had a stretch where they went something like 66-4 over a 3-year period. So that's very enticing for a kid. Not only that, but you've got things that take up your attention, like video games and cell phones, and a lot of kids work these days. And it's just a challenge to keep the kids coming back to a sport where you've got to watch your weight. You've got to grind every single day in practice. It's Monday through Friday practice. And then you've got 12 to 16 hours on Saturday invested in a tournament. So you've got 6 days a week that you have to invest. You have to watch what you eat. You have to come in and do a grind of a practice that's harder than any high school practice. I don't care what anybody says. A wrestling practice is an absolute grind. And to do all that and push away all these other things that I talked about that you could be doing instead, it is tough to keep kids coming. But if you're running your program where the kids are building confidence, they see the benefits of that wrestling brings them in their mind. Most of all, you can really learn a lot about yourself, what you can handle. You can really overcome things that you maybe didn't think that you could in the past. Not only that, you build friendships. You go to tournaments, you see kids from other schools that you have fun doing it. Then hopefully they will continue to come back. If you can do those things, then you can keep the kids out. But there will always be challenges that this sport has that I feel like other sports don't, just because it is such a grind. It's hard on the body, it's hard on the mind, and you have to be disciplined to succeed in this sport.
Gary, let's start to preview this weekend. The Hefner coming up at Austintown Fitch, and Fitch always does a great job hosting these tournaments, and it's always fun when you can be in a place like that. What are some things to look forward to this weekend for the tournament at Fitch?
You know what? It's a great tournament. It's another, Fitch hosts a couple great tournaments during the year. They have a lot of good teams. There's a ton of YSN teams at this tournament. I think that it's as you're heading into the last month or so of the season, this is a good one again to test yourself these last few weeks. The Top Gun, the OVAC, the Hefner. You're going to find out who you are as a wrestler, and if you're coaching, you're going to find out what your team is made of wrestling in these tournaments. And you're going to be seeing some of the competition that you're going to be seeing in sectionals and districts. So you can also see if, you want a kid to be at one weight or at another weight, what's best for them, what's best for the team. A lot of dynamics to it. I think that this will be another good one.
When you look at the wrestling as a whole on the network, who are some of the, I know we talked about some of the guys that have stand out in the last few weeks, but who are the names we're going to see in the 3 to 4 weeks moving forward as we head towards all the big names?
The Feisters from Hoban. You've got Louisville's got half a dozen kids that are going to be on the radar. Beaver Local has a couple kids, Bobby Buhite, he's been on the show. Jake Hughes, a freshman coming in with a bang. He's an absolute he's a hammer, and he's a freshman, but he doesn't wrestle like a freshman. So he very well could be on that podium and very high on that podium at the state tournament. Salem, again, they've got a handful of kids that could as well get to the state tournament, maybe place. When they get there, South Range is doing well. The C. Schultz kid is really wrestling well. Caden Welker, he had a good tournament at the Top Gun. I could name off a ton of kids and a ton of programs. Those are the ones that stand out to me. Austintown Fitch has had a great year. Of course, Hubbard doing great as a team. We had the Hackwelder kid on last week. I know that he's got his eyes set on standing on the podium. So really, to say one or a few kids, I couldn't do that because I wouldn't be doing justice, because I don't know if anybody realizes it, on the YSN network, there are some really, really great wrestling teams and some really great individual wrestlers. And for me, it's an exciting time of the year because I not only get to experience it as a coach, I get to experience it on the network.
Here's the big question, Gary. We had a lot of placers last year in Columbus. Do you think we can top last year in YSN placers?
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know, because like I said, when we started this season, there were a lot of kids that graduated, a lot of really good wrestlers that graduated, but there'll be new guys that pop up, and there'll be unexpected guys that pop up. So I don't know. I think we got a shot at it. I think it might be if I was betting to say
you are.
I would say it'd probably be like a plus 250. So I'd say the odds are not in your favor, but if we were to come through with them, it'd be a nice payday. Let me say that.
I think the big question, and I'm not sure that you've ever been asked this, so I'm going to put you on the spot here, is
oh boy.
It's subjective. So you've been able to see this firsthand, and again, we talk about the intro, and you're bashful and you're very humble when it comes to, this stuff. But honestly, between you and Chris Colucci, you guys are carrying the banner for wrestling, as it's never been done before. It's never had this kind of eyes on it. It's never been tracked like it's being tracked right now. And I think I think we can all be in agreement that it's only going to go up from here. But over the last couple years, as you've been part of these Wrestling Wednesdays and shined a light on wrestling, have you seen wrestling become more popular outside of, kind of the room, as opposed to just inside, and parents that are obsessive about this sport and coaches that are obsessive about this sport? Have you seen it grow in popularity around the area?
Absolutely. I mean, YSN's done a great job. There's never been anything like YSN for these high school kids. They've had a newspaper, and then you'd get 2 or 3 minutes on the local news station while they're doing their 5-minute sports section, 6-minute sports section. So absolutely, YSN has been an absolute big help. But what else has been is social media. Social media has really exposed the sport on a different level. The technicality of the sport now, the technicians that you see on the mat, the kids are at just another level as far as moves go, as far as being masters at any position, at takedowns, top position, bottom position, whatever. It's just at another level because the information is shared so freely now with social media. You get on Reels, you get on TikTok, and you can watch these guys who've got hundreds of thousands of followers. There's a guy named Caden Henschel, I think is his name. I might have screwed that name up, but he's got a really big following on social media. He wrestles in Division II, and he will put together highlight tape of his wrestling tournaments. He'll tell you what he did right, what he did wrong. And I think when kids see that, they see just how the sport works and how it can be really fun, especially when there's a guy showing you the highlights and he's hitting these really crazy high level moves and he's really good. Those kind of things have done a great job for the sport. And the sport is actually growing. According to the NFHS, the National Federation of High School Sports, the numbers for total wrestlers in the country has increased in the last few years. And I think a lot of that has to go to the exposure, but also girls wrestling growing.
And congratulations, by the way. Girls wrestling is officially going to be a NCAA sport now?
Yes. Yes, it is. It is now officially division. Yep. NCAA
was it Sunday?
sport.
Monday?
Yeah, just this past week. Yep.
Unbelievable.
It's one of the ones the high school got first and then trickled up to college. It's usually the other way around. So
yeah, you're right. It usually is. Just like with the rule changes in the points this year, that usually does come from the top down. I'm not sure what took. They probably needed to honestly wait to get enough teams, enough school sponsoring teams. That might have been the reason why. It's tough for colleges to sponsor non-revenue generating teams because their costs are a lot higher than high schools. They're paying head coaches livable salaries, and they have to have the facilities. Whereas with the high school, you can pay a coach, just a stipend, like a side job stipend, and you could practice in a gym or somewhere else, or that might not be the case with the college teams. So I think that was probably why, but it's great to see. And it's been so good for the sport. It's just, as a person who loves the sport, just from a fan point of view, the girls wrestling has been amazing.
How does that springboard into more opportunities for our local regional wrestlers here for the fairer sex?
Oh, I mean, you're going to have more opportunities to go and to go to school and to get scholarship money. There are just more avenues and more opportunities, and especially when these schools are first starting out and they're first starting to recruit, those are the times to pounce, to get an opportunity to go and play a sport in college, get that, get that scholarship money. There's not, one of the most valuable things ever would be a free college education to springboard you into a successful career, a lucrative career. Take advantage of it. You never know when those opportunities will come and go. And I will say, unfortunately, wrestling is one of the sports that if a school is feeling tightening of the budget, they're one of the sports that usually get looked at to be taken away because it is expensive to run a sports team. I mean, I'm sure we all know this, but I don't know how the average person knows. Not many sports in high school or college generate money in the positive. Usually it's football, basketball, and maybe one or two others that finish in the net positive. Those sports pay for everything else. So you never know when these opportunities are going to come and go. Take advantage of while you can get them.
I mean, in being where we are, our locale in the Midwest, in the Great Lakes region, we see a lot more wrestlers, better quality wrestlers at the next level than a lot of the other states. So will it translate the same for women? Going to college as well? Is that a 1-to-1 basis basically when you look at that, or are we going to see other states step up because they can, or they have a greater population of wrestlers and potential wrestlers at the next level?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it'd have to translate just because the girls are going to be in the room with the guys. And, Pennsylvania is the number one state in the country for high school wrestling. Ohio is right up there in the top 5, and a lot will argue the number 2 state, if not now. It has been in the past. But I will say the one thing that kind of is working against Ohio with the girls wrestling is we were later to the party than some other states were. So there were some other states that got on the bandwagon first. So they're going to have deeper, as far as the quality wrestlers, because they're just going to have more kids that have come out because the opportunity was there first. But I don't think it will take long for us to catch up. And I think we're right there anyway. We do have some really great wrestlers in this state. And I do think there will be a transition from the quality of wrestling. I don't see how you could not have it.
I can think of some girls on the YSN network that might get some opportunities really quick now that option is available, because we have.
Hey, our really big dog of the valley was a female.
That's right. Do you like that, by the way? Do you like being able to mix the boys and girls and big dogs?
Heck, I thought that was a great idea. It's why not? Why not put them right up there head to head? And we saw with the first one, what happened. They definitely deserve it. They, they deserve to be there. They go to the tournaments just like the boys do. They have to win just like the boys do. They go to practice every day. Why not throw them in? I thought that was a great idea. And I told Anthony last week I was really interested to see who won that. And Paige Cowan, she's a great wrestler for East Liverpool. She's a sophomore. She placed at the state tournament. I saw her win probably the most exciting match I saw all weekend at the state tournament that first day, where she got a takedown. I mean, with 0.1 seconds left, she popped her head out, got the takedown, won her first match in a big upset, and ended up placing. So I think she's very deserving. I really like that idea. I think we should stick with it.
We have a gentleman waiting backstage who we've been waiting for. We're about a half hour in, but we've been waiting for literally all of our lives here on YSN.
Uh-oh.
We'll give him a sec. Usually,
Of course, my internet drops. He is the next generation of great wrestlers in our area. He is the main event, and over the EOWLs, not only did he win the 157 pounds, he also went right to the table, ripped off the YSN flag, and carried it around like the champion he is. Ladies and gentlemen, from Beaver Local, Jake Hughes. What's up, champ?
Nothing. Thank you guys for having me on here.
Thanks for being here. First off, I got to ask you the question. Did you, when you won it, I saw you look over at the YSN table where Chris Colucci was. You kind of gave him a nod and you ran over, grabbed the flag and started carrying it around. First off, you're a legend. You just got real famous for the next 4 years, my friend. Was that your idea, or do we have to give homage to the great Fur Colucci?
Well, me and Boo Height were kind of warming up there on that mat before the finals were getting ready to go. And Colucci came up to us and was like, he kind of asked Bobby if he would want to do it. And Bobby had his 100-win banner, so he was like, I can't do it. I'm going to have my 100 wins after this. And I was like, I'll do it. So after that match, I kind of looked at him and he was like, let's go. Then I went over and grabbed it.
I don't know if you heard the call, but Colucci made it sound like he was Jim Ross, where he was like, he took the flag. He took the flag. Like, you literally were the Stone Cold Steve Austin of YSN and probably will be forever. Jake, you're just a freshman. And I think Gary mentioned it earlier. You don't wrestle like one. What do you contribute all your success to at this level and transitioning so quickly from, the quote unquote amateurs to the varsity level so quick, and obviously, championships quality and caliber wrestling that you bring to the table at such a young age?
I mean, really just my training. I mean, I've been training at the highest level all my life. So going out there on a high school mat's no different than going out there practicing with these kids my whole life. So I just know that I've been trained and ready for it. So I've just gone out there and having fun now.
I mean, first years, butterflies, you have to deal with them. What was it like to kind of have your first high school wrestling match? What were some of the nerves like? Did you have nerves, or were you just like, I'm good to go?
I mean, obviously the nerves are there a little bit before every single match you have, but I try to make it more of like excitement and turn it into more of a positive thing rather than like sitting there nervous and locking up. I just try to use it as excitement and know that I'm ready for it.
Jake, first off, if you want to be invited to DJ's kids' baptisms, his Christmas dinners, his birthday parties, then you grab the YSN flag and you run around with it. So I think that you're going to have a friend of DJ forever. But you just finished up the OVAC tournament. I'm checking out your brackets. Yep. You kind of blew through all the way to the finals. Then you had a really experienced kid from Cameron, West Virginia, with great program there, who I think he had won it in the past. You're able to grind out a 2-0 win. What did you think of that tournament? And did you I mean, he's a senior, so did you expect the kind of challenge that you had?
I mean, yeah, that's a great tournament. OVAC is always going to have good, tough brackets there. And going through, I pretty much handled everyone pretty well. And then getting to the finals, obviously, that arena is a good atmosphere to be in. And I went out there, and I didn't really wrestle my best match, I felt like, in that finals match. Ended up getting one reversal and just ended up scrambling a couple of times and figuring out a way to get it done.
Jake, when you look at what Beaver Local it means to wrestling in this area, and it's a who's who, right? When you look at the program, the traditions, the championships, for you to be in that room where so many have done what they've done, does it inspire you? And who were some of the guys that you looked up to and still look up to maybe to this day?
I mean, yeah, like even when I was littler, I would always go into that high school room and try to grab the bigger guys. Like I would always try to grab Cole McComas, Logan Hours, Mark Emmerling, all of them, like whenever I was coming up through middle school, just to get that feel when I was littler. And even in the room now, me and Bobby, we get into good live goes every day at practice.
Yeah, you talk about Bobby, and it wasn't too long ago he was in your shoes as a freshman on the scene, putting his name on the map, doing all the great things as a freshman. Did he give you any advice on how to deal with freshman year and how to kind of be ready to go as soon as you come on the mat?
I mean, he's always by my side for every tournament, and he's always just kind of like, that you're ready for this, and we both just push each other every day, so we're ready for every match that we have.
So you guys wrestled at Cambridge, you wrestled at Brecksville, you wrestled at the EOWL, you wrestled at the OVAC. I mean, that's a pretty good grind to the season. Do you feel like your schedule's getting you ready for that postseason run?
Yeah, I mean, every one of these tournaments is getting me ready for March, and I feel like I'm prepared for it. A couple of tough losses I've taken this year, a couple of tough wins I've had. All of it's just getting me ready for that end goal.
Is it challenging to be sitting here as a freshman and to have, obviously a lot of experience in the sport, but there's so much ahead of you? Who do you kind of point to as the people that have led the way for you and have you can shout out to now and say, hey, thank you for making me kind of who I am today?
Yeah, I mean, all the Beaver local coaches out there every day helping me. Adam Kabbalah has been my main coach, like as far as outside of the Beaver local room, and he's been helping me a lot with even like getting my weight on point, getting those extra workouts in, my diet on point, and a lot of those little situations. He's always been like my main guy in there, and then even like my parents being there supporting me when I'm at home and when I'm not feeling the best cutting weight.
Everyone knows the physicality of wrestling and what it takes physically to be a wrestler, but it's also a big mental strain, and you have to be mentally tough in this sport. Talk about some of the routines that you do and some of the things that you do to get yourself mentally right during a match, before a match, and how you stay mentally strong through the grind that is a wrestling season.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is mental, and one thing that I've been doing is wrestling mindset every week, and that's helped me out a lot over the past year. I would say I've been doing it, and just those little lessons every week has really helped me out with relaxing under pressure and knowing that you're ready and believing in your training and all those little things.
Every week, I ask two questions. Number one, who's your main drilling partner? Who makes you better in the room? And I think I've never answer. Number two, it's been a tough week. You made a cut. You step on the scale. You're a 10th under. You step off that scale. What is JQ's go-to meal?
I mean, yeah, my partner every day in the room is Bobby mostly. And right after I get on that scale, first thing I'm grabbing is probably a Pedialyte. And if I'm getting something little to eat, probably like an Uncrustable.
Oh, it's a simple
so he's
one,
still disciplined. He's still disciplined when it comes to that. Like, he could get a pizza,
Yeah,
what
we've heard
steak
Wendy's,
hoagie,
we've heard
Wait,
McDonald's.
Baconators, Chipotle for breakfast,
Baconators. Look at you.
pickles and the pomegranates.
Yep,
We've had
we
a lot
got
of
that
things.
one.
Goodness gracious. All right. So we got to say what everybody else is thinking. Beaver Local, for as long as it's been around, has been a school that cancels or delays every single time there's a snowfall. For good reason. It is a school that has a 100-mile radius to bus kids in. My question, especially because you are living in the season, does that ever mess you up from a scheduling standpoint? Obviously, if the school's closed, do you have to make arrangements to get into the room and get practice? Because practice can be canceled. I mean, how much discipline goes in it for you, and how much frustration is it this time of year to have your schedule turned upside down because of school closings?
I mean, it's not really that much because our coach McComas does a good job at, even if school's canceled, we're still having practice. Even if the time's a little bit messed up, we're still having practice pretty much every day. And as far as like our schedule and everything, like we didn't have school today. We have a match tonight. We're still going to go wrestle in it over in Oak Glen. And it's not been that much of a like struggle with having a lot of snow days, but sometimes it's nice being able to chill and then go wrestle.
I was going to say, do you still get cranked up? Like we used to watch like WTOV or WFMJ like it was the NFL draft. And when our school was on there, like you celebrate, or maybe you're too excited to go back to bed. But do you still sit around and like wait for Beaver Local, or you're just like, I know we're going to be canceled. I know that
It's
this is
Beaver.
what I have to go through.
I mean, I'm definitely excited whenever I see that Beaver Local post of no school, but it's because I know a lot of the schools around us will have school too, and then we see that. I get excited every time I see it.
Even
feel
that
like,
2-hour delay, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you could have like a foot of snow and cold weather, extremely cold. Wrestling coaches would still be like, we have practice.
Yeah, we pretty
Let's
much
go.
try to
This
practice
is
every Sunday.
wrestling. We don't let anything stop us. Cold weather, snow, hail, freezing rain, doesn't matter. Get in the wrestling room.
Let's can I ask this real quick, because we were talking about sorry about that. We were talking about earlier. Jake, what drew you to wrestling? Because there's so many options nowadays, you know, with video games, esports. Gary was talking about bowling and all the other things. What drew you to wrestling? Did you come from a wrestling family, or is it something that just kind of enticed you on its own?
Well, I was young. I think my dad went to go sign up my older brother to wrestle whenever he would have been like 7 and I was like 4. And the coaches in the youth league at Beaver Local were like, "You want to sign him up too?" And my dad was like, "Sure." And I was 4 years old, and it's just stuck with me ever since.
Started
Hey,
as a
I know you're working with those the wrestling mindset guys, and you know every great wrestler has a good mindset. Do you have any goals for the end of the season, or are you focused more on one match at a time? How are you going into the season and trying to finish out your year to feel good about the season at the end?
I mean, I definitely try to look at the whole season, but then also every match is kind of the same. I don't want to look at it as like my whole season depends on how the state tournament goes. And obviously, it's a main goal to be a state champ this year, but I don't try to put a lot of pressure on the state tournament like that, because I know that I've wrestled kids just as good as kids at the state tournament, and the state tournament is just another tournament. So just going out there and wrestling every match the way I can.
You know, we talk about transitioning to high school wrestling as a freshman. What about high school in the classroom? What's the transition been like from middle school to high school, where there's more schoolwork, there's more expectations on you from teachers in high school? How has that been treating you so far your freshman year at Beaver Local?
It's been pretty good. I've been staying on top of everything the best I can, and I've been pretty good in the classroom. I haven't noticed a whole lot of change, because even at Beaver Local, the coaches or the teachers have always been pretty on you about getting your schoolwork done, and I've always been that kind of kid in the classroom who's making sure everything's done the night before, and I've been pretty much sticking to that and been pretty good.
Jake Hughes with us from Beaver Local. Jake, one last question before we let you go. Certainly, we're excited and happy that you joined us here today. If you were in the room with that 4-year-old Jake Hughes, and you're in the room with the future 18-year-old Jake Hughes, what's one thing that you would tell that 4-year-old and give them the advice? And what's the thing you would ask the 18-year-old of what's about to happen and hope that's going to happen in the next 4 years?
If I had to tell my 4-year-old self one thing, is just to have fun with it, because at the end of the day, it is just a sport, and you need to have fun with it and go out there. If you put in all the work, if you train every day the best you can, then at the end of the day, all the matches are just fun, and leave it all out there.
And then what about that 18-year-old? What would you ask him?
Just, did we do everything that we could? Did I put in the work? Like, did I do everything? Did I prepare the way I could every single day? And pretty much just, did I do all that I could do?
He's a stud. He's a stud. He's a stud at 14, 18, 4, whatever he is. He's a champion. Right now, he's a champion, 157. We're so proud of you. Welcome, my friend, to YSN Lure. You made an impact quickly, and you will forever be the darling here on YSN. Jake, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. We wish you all the best tonight and moving forward into all the tournaments you're going to be in, brother.
Yep, thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Jake.
There he goes. Jake Hughes. Oh, my gosh. He's so well put together. Obviously, from a physical standpoint, he's got all the tools, the traits, and everything he needs. But mentally, like, he's quick and he knows it. And you know, when you do these interviews, you learn kind of who's kind of selling, so to speak, and who's just shooting straight. And that young man shoots straight as an arrow. He's got so much talent and so much ahead of him. Gary, when you look at a freshman like that, you've got to be salivating. And if you were the coach, you've got to be sitting there being like, man, the potential for a young man like this. What goes through your mind when you see a young man that has that resume already built up in his freshman year?
Oh, everybody around the area, the coaches, dads, wrestling fans have known about Jake for a long time just because he's been so good. I think everybody in the area has kind of been waiting for him to come in high school to see what he can do. He's got the mindset of a champion because he is confident in himself, but he also, I think that he takes things one match at a time. And I think he's got his mind right where he needs to be. And he's been wrestling around the country, his whole life. So he's had these big matches. So just like he said, these matches that he's going into, these aren't the biggest matches of his life. These are just another match in his life. And he's approaching it the right way. He's got a great partner in the room. He's got, Bobby Buchheit's in there with him, 3-time state placer, 3-time OVAC champion in there with him, pushing him every day. I'm sure those two are making each other better. And as a coach, I would be absolutely excited to see, what he could do in the state tournament in his career. And I'm sure Coach McComas is there, but they've known this was coming. They know that he was coming up and that he was going to be something special. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles things here in the postseason. And I can guarantee that he's going to have a lot of guys in grades 9 through 12 all over the state looking at him to see what he's doing and if they're going to have to go through him to get to the top of the podium.
In every professional sport, we hear when someone gets drafted their rookie season, we hear, they were put in a really good situation that helped them succeed. You know a lot, Beaver local program. You know a lot about it. We've had their coaches on plenty of times here on Wrestling Wednesday. How much of a benefit is it to a freshman to be in that program and that atmosphere with those expectations?
Oh, yeah. Hey, when you've got good kids in the room to push you and to make you better, it absolutely helps. But more than that, it's on you as a wrestler. If you want to be good, you can be good. I absolutely think he's got that. And then he's got the guys in the room to push him, other guys that want to be good. So if you get two guys together like him and Buchheit that both want to probably have the same goal at the end of the day to both be champions, I think that you've got a recipe for success. And we've seen it right now because they both won the OVAC tournament. That's a huge tournament with teams from two different states. And I think that it's going to be fun to watch those two guys this year in March as we head to the state tournament.
Kind of a silly question, I guess, but when you have multiple people in that room or in any sport, a dugout, a clubhouse, whatever it may be, is it that much easier as a coach to kind of create that discipline that you need for excellence, or can you do it with one person and help filter down that pyramid of like you asked the question to Jake about if you had one meal that as soon as you got off the scale, and he was able to quickly stay disciplined. Like he could have said Chipotle or a pizza or whatever, and he Pedialyte. You know what I mean? So is it one of those situations like you're almost praying for multiple kids with that discipline and that kind of, I don't know, idealism that they want something worse than they want anything else?
Oh, yeah, it absolutely helps the room because the other kids see it and the kids see who's successful and what they're doing and the leaders in the room. The most vocal kids are the ones that, the younger and inexperienced guys gravitate to. But it's not always easier because sometimes when kids are really good at any sport, they can sometimes think they don't have to work. So it could also work to your disadvantage as a coach. I don't see that at all from him. There's no way he could get to where he is by being like that. But to answer the question in a general way, it absolutely helps. But that just because a kid has been successful, it doesn't always mean that they do the things that you're saying, DJ. So the ones, though, at the end of the day that end up at the top of the podium at the state tournament or at places like the OVAC tournament are the ones that work hard. And that almost always translates to at least some of the kids following that and wanting to do the same.
Man, when you think about a young kid that comes up as a freshman, in general, I'm sure you've had a lot of good freshmen in your coaching career that came up that were really talented. How do you kind of balance the coaching aspect of keeping them confident and keeping that swagger they come in as a freshman, and also just kind of trying to ground them a little bit and say this is still high school wrestling. You're going to be going up against seniors. You're going to be going up against guys that are a lot more experienced than you. You got to be a little bit of that got to keep the swagger, but got to be a little bit more of that. Be ready for that stage too. How do you kind of balance that as a coach?
Hey, I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. Every kid's different. You reach every kid a different way. You just have to kind of see, what the kid responds to, where they kind of are mentally. If they're nervous about being, up at the high school level, hey, listen, it's the same size circle. It's you and one other guy. It's the referee out there. The scoring's the same. This is no different than anything else. And that kid's probably thinking the same about you. And if they come in with a little bit of an inflated ego, hey, you've got to take this serious. This is not going to be like junior high, where you're either going to be the oldest guy or somebody's going to be a year older than you. Now you could have guys that are 3 years older than you, or maybe even 4 years older than you. So you need to kind of get your mindset right and just be ready to go to battle either way. You just have to approach it individually with each kid.
G, we appreciate you popping by each and every Wednesday. You are, as I said, the tribal chief of all things wrestling here on YSN, my friend. Best of luck to you this coming week. We'll catch you next Wednesday, and certainly keep on keeping on, dude. We're proud of you. Keep it up, and thanks for keeping us informed.
Hey, I appreciate this a lot. Thanks for asking me on year after year, week after week. I hope you guys will keep me around as long as you want. I'll be here.
You're a legend, buddy. Appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, GA, Gary Altizer. Ant, we got to take a break because we come back. We have one of the top coaches with the top teams in this entire area. Coach of the Crestview Lady Rebels, Aaron Blatch, will join us when we return right here on YSN Live. Back after this.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens. On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to YSN Live on this Wednesday. Thanks to Gary Altizer for popping by. Thanks to Jake Hughes for popping by as well. But our next guest, we flip from the wrestling mat to the basketball court. We'll be able to catch this young and enthusiastic coach tonight with part of a doubleheader right here on YSN against Liberty. He is a gentleman who has had us in his best interest the entire time. He wrote one of the most touching letters to me in the early going of YSN that kept us rolling. And ladies and gentlemen, he is now one of the best coaches with one of the best teams and the most entertaining teams on the entire network. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Aaron Blatch. What's up, Coach? Oh, we got some audio issues. Coach, can you hear us? Yeah, we're having some audio. I don't know if what we got here. Maybe pop out and pop back in. We got some technical difficulties. That's all right. We'll get this taken care of. Don't worry. We'll get Coach back on here. You know, Ant, it's one of those things when you talk to an Aaron Blatch or you talk to someone who has so much invested into his basketball team or a coach in any gender's basketball team. This is a guy that cares so much about his athletes, so much about these girls that he's willing to beef up the schedule. We talked about it all week. He's willing to play whoever, whenever, wherever, whether it's on the moon, if it's at Crestview, if it's on wherever, in a parking lot, doesn't matter. He wants the best for his girls, and not just the best. He wants what they've come to deserve, and that is a lot of people thinking that it's a state championship, and it's one step at a time for him. We'll get to him in just a minute and ask him, you know, what is the potential for this team as they move forward? For you, as someone who is the dean of all women's sports in this area, what do you think is the telltale for the Crestview Rebels as it sits right now?
Well, I think especially since Aaron Blatch took over, one of the things that I like that he's done with this program is he's been patient with the development. I mean, it took a couple of years to get them to where they are now, you know, with the same players, with some other players that have come a little bit in the past. They were starting to knock on the door of being one of the premier programs in the area. They weren't quite getting there yet, but they kept knocking. And the patience to just say, hey, we have the players, we have the culture, we're going to get there eventually. And now here they are, the last two seasons especially, just rolling through everyone and anyone that gets in their way.
All right, let's try this again. You ready? Ladies and gentlemen, this time we bring in a gentleman that is undefeated in the MVAC, rolling through the season and beefing up his schedule so they can go even further here as we head towards the postseason. At this time, we bring in the head basketball coach of the girls basketball team in Crestview, Aaron Blatch. What's up, Coach?
Hey, guys, can you hear me now?
Yeah, baby.
All right, there we go. Hey, thanks for having me on.
No, we love having you on, Coach. You know, I mentioned we'll start with the sappy stuff first. A few seasons ago, and it feels like a few seasons ago, but I think it was like 6 or 7 seasons ago. Following the season, you sent me one of the to my personal residence. You sent me one of the kindest notes about YSN and what we do. You didn't have to do that, and that seems to be your mantra: is you do what you don't have to do, so you can have what you necessarily nobody expected you to ever have. You have taken this program to new heights, and you continue to want to take it to even further heights. What keeps you driven when you go to work every day, grab that clipboard, grab that whistle, and take this, what seems to be the area's best team, and want to make them better and better each and every time they take the floor?
Well, I mean, we have great kids, just really good people, really good players. You know, I'm blessed to be able to work with them every day, along with the rest of our coaching staff. You know, just really fortunate to have you. My brother's been with me the whole time, and he's just been instrumental in all of this. And along with, you know, John Gallagher's been with us the last several years. Cassie Spate, we've added to our high school staff this year. They both do a great job, you know, going all the way down to, you know, our middle school coaches and youth coaches. But, you know, this has been a lot of fun to build. And, you know, we're not where we want to be yet, but I feel like we're getting a little bit better every day. But it, for all of us, I think just really starts with the kids, you know, and seeing them improve individually and collectively is very rewarding for us.
I like that you used the word build, because before you came on, I was talking about how patient you've been with the progress of this program. Kept knocking on that door of being really good a couple of years ago. And then, you know, now here you are, last 2 years especially, you've kind of gotten to where I'm sure you envisioned this program back when you took the job. Talk about being patient through those years where you could see the culture was being set. You could see there were special things coming down the tunnel, but you had to get through that tunnel first, and you had to be able to make sure you stayed patient, kept the blinders on, and got through it. So from your perspective, what was it like to kind of see the positives kind of there and to be patient with the program?
Yeah, I mean, I think anything worthwhile is going to take some time. We've like we said, we've been fortunate, not just now, but the young women that came before our current set of ladies, put in a lot of time and kind of helped us lay the groundwork to where we want to go. I think coaching anywhere, is a challenge. I think, my colleagues at different schools would agree with that. But, we've been lucky to be in a good situation. We've had a lot of support at Crestview with, our administration and our community and, our parents and support systems. And, like I said, I mean, we're just trying to plug away and get a little bit better every day. We're by no means a finished product right now. I'm looking forward to hopefully taking another big leap between now and tournament time. But, I am proud of the progress that we've been able to make, and especially just since it's been such a collective effort, with a lot of different people contributing to this.
I mean, there's a lot of coaches that are watching your program on a weekly basis, and they sit there and they go, man, I'd love to have that player or this player or just one of them. And you have a collective of potential superstars that, Aaron, I'm not lying to you, to be able to watch it firsthand the other night and then to watch it again tonight, I'm excited because they don't play like they're superstars individually. They play in such a team, in such almost like synchronized swimming. I mean, they know where each other are. You see that the leadership on the floor kind of changes hands depending on who has the basketball. We saw Lovey out there dropping 18, and she wasn't the headline. In a lot of different games, she would be the head honcho. And then you've got Addison Rhodes, who is potentially, and Anthony and I talked about it yesterday, and I hold no punches. I think she's one of the most talented athletes we have in any sport on this entire network and potentially that we've ever had. How do you keep the egos in check when it comes to things like that? I know that sometimes it's a little easier because it's girls instead of boys, but how do you keep the egos in check to understand that there's something bigger that they could accomplish together?
I think it speaks of the character of, not only those few girls that you mentioned, but just the team as a whole. I've never now, or, these last few years, we haven't really had any sense of, of jealousy or competition for shots or anything like that. One thing I think that's special about our group is that, everybody kind of brings their own unique talent. I think we have two girls that every team on the schedule has to game plan for, with Addison and Lorraine. I think their accomplishments kind of speak for themselves and are two of the absolute best players, not just now in the area, but I think in a lot of years in our area. But then beyond that, when you look at everybody kind of being able to fill a role, Breida Cross, I think, kind of makes everything go for us. She's one of the top assist kids in Ohio right now. She pushes the pace. She helps set up those two, and along with all of our other shooters. I think Meyer Miller has had a fantastic senior season, has taken on a much bigger load defensively, as well as being a reliable shooter. Getting Ava Busey and Lexi Blower back from some injuries, they're, I think looking better and better every game. Those are two really crucial parts of our team. Ava is not just a shooter, but also giving us some increased physicality. Lexi giving us another post presence on both ends of the floor. Kerrigan Miller has had, I think, a breakout sophomore season. She's given us some really good minutes. She's great in the press. She can shoot it. And, we've had a freshman, Brianna Baker, who, on a lot of teams, that's a varsity starter. She plays JV. She comes off the bench with the varsity. when we've had some injuries, she's been able to step into some really difficult situations and really excel, along with the rest of our younger JV girls. I mean, they're having a great year as well. So, I mean, I'm just, the whole group, I think they play well together. I think they enjoy being around one another. They like playing together. So that kind of makes our job a lot easier. But it is great to have great leadership, like you mentioned, on the floor. I know Addison in particular is, really like having a coach on the floor. She's vocal, she's encouraging, and does a great job there as well. So it's coming together nicely. Like I said, I'm excited to see where this group ends up.
We've been talking about it before you came on. The Crestview has really beefed up their schedule this year. How, Hoban, Streetsboro, Madison, Washington, how important was it to you to get those kind of teams on your schedule and to be able to expose your kids to that level of basketball?
Yeah, that was something, after last year that we really talked about. Last year, this group, we won our first 25 games. We had an undefeated regular season, lost a heartbreaker in overtime in the district final to a really good Keystone team that ended up in the Final Four. But, just to be able to better prepare our team for those sorts of moments, I think we needed to get out of our area a little bit more. We know we have a talented team. We actually sought out Akron Hoban. Coach Davis there obviously is, had phenomenal success, throughout her career. And, I reached out. I didn't have her number. We sent a huddle request at the end of last season. I said, hey, would you want to play? Knowing that, hey, that's a game that, we're going to fight like crazy to try to win, but that's certainly a game that is maybe a little bit above what we normally see, or a lot above what we normally see. So they invited us to their Hoop Fest where we saw them in Streetsboro. Streetsboro's got an ESPN top 100 kid in the country that's going to go play at Illinois. We took them right down to the last minute, had an opportunity, couldn't quite pull it out. And then getting to play Massillon. Massillon has a great team as well. I think on the court, they've only lost one game. They had kind of a eligibility issue where they had to forfeit a few, but we wanted to schedule with the big picture in mind. And obviously as a competitor, I hate to lose, our kids hate to lose, but it's all right to lose a game or two. I mean, it's not the end of the world when you're challenging yourself. And, we hope that we're going to be better for those experiences and that's going to pay off come tournament time.
Naturally, Coach, as a leader, if you're going to battle through adversity, whether it's, in the record books, whether it's, your wins and losses, or whether it's the outside chatter, there's been a lot of outside chatter about what the scoreboard has read, whether it's one side or the next. How do you battle through that? Because you're just trying to do your job. You're doing what's best for your program, obviously showcasing sportsmanship along the way. We've seen that in all of your years, Aaron. But to have the conversation continue, sometimes you just can't do right. And it's the outside noises. How do you keep them outside and not let them into your boat, so to speak?
Yeah, at times we've been in kind of a difficult spot. We recognize that, again, we're fortunate to have a lot of talent, and, we do have a lot of kids that are capable of putting up some points. We certainly are also cognizant of the importance of, respecting our opponent. We fully respect every opponent that we have in sportsmanship. I do think we need to be careful though, because if we take every league game and just say, well, hey, we're not going to play real hard tonight, or we're going to barely play our kids tonight. I don't think that's fair to our kids. And two, I don't think that's the way to get better and to continue to build. So, we need to play hard. We need to play the style that we feel like we want to play that could lead to success in the bigger games. We've really prioritized doing that. And I know sometimes people will look at scores and will criticize that. That's fine. That's part of it. But I feel like we're handling things the best way that we can. I think that our girls are getting better. A lot of our younger JV girls have had opportunities in a lot of games this year, to get some extra varsity time, which I think is going to be valuable next year and beyond. We're certainly going to need some of those girls to move up into bigger spots. And, and when they get in the game, we want them to be able to play and play well, not just dribble the clock out for the last 7-8 minutes of the game either. So it is a difficult spot. I know that some of the schools around us are kind of rebuilding a little bit, and listen, we've been there and are certainly respectful of that as well. But we don't worry too much about the outside stuff. Again, I think I give this group a lot of credit in that, I think they come to every game, they come to every practice just with the mindset of we need to get better. So that's just what we're trying to do.
Coach, it's easy to know that the winter weather has hit us hard especially this last month. You've probably missed a couple of practices that you thought you'd have. You've definitely had to postpone games. Just mess with the routine a little bit as a coaching staff and as a team. How have you managed that, navigated that, and kind of kept everything routine as possible with cancellations and postponements?
Yeah, it's part of being in a winter sport. That's certainly part of it. One thing, we have more girls right now, being that we are a little bit older and more experienced than what we have been some years. We have more girls that drive now, and I'll be honest, we tend to prioritize just safety. I don't want them out driving on the road when things are bad. There's been a day or two where I think the school probably would have let us come into practice, but it just makes me a little bit nervous with 16, 17-year-olds on the road under, less than ideal conditions. So we've had a few off days. Honestly, at this point of the year, if we don't know what we're doing by now, we're probably not going to figure it out. So, taking an occasional off day, I don't think is the end of the world. Obviously from a coaching perspective, there's always more that you want to improve at and install and all that. But, I think maybe taking a day here and there to, just kind of rest their legs. Yesterday, we just went with the snow day. We just went and kind of had team brunch, just went out to eat and hung out a little bit together. We didn't do anything on the court. But it can be frustrating at times, especially when you're trying to game plan for particular opponents. But I know pretty much everybody's probably in the same boat right now.
When you look at the roster that you have right now, we talked about your seniors. Obviously, we talked about the talent that you have, the team camaraderie that this team particularly has. Do you ever have those intimate conversations about urgency and how special this group can be to write a legacy that might be another 2, 3, 4 decades before we ever see this kind of talent and this kind of potential on one particular roster?
Yeah, it's not something we've talked about a lot, but I do think our girls understand. I think our seniors in particular understand that, I know Meyer Miller has brought up a couple times, like, we only have so many more of these opportunities left. The regular season's kind of winding down, and I know that can kind of be an emotional thing for, for a senior in any sport or activity. It's certainly, I've even talk to our coaching staff here and there about it's not always going to be like this, so some of the kids that we have now are not kids you're just getting in every year, they're coming up through the program every year. So, we're fortunate. I think we understand that we all have the responsibility as players and as coaches to try to maximize this run the best that we can. Because I think we have a lot of pieces in place here to really do a lot of special things.
Now, Coach, we talked about this yesterday about Abby Emsch on the volleyball side. I'm wondering how much in her younger years were you trying to let's get on the basketball court? Let's try to use that, because we kind of dreamed of a world where she also played basketball and had a passion for that sport too. What kind of things? Were those conversations ever had between you and her in her younger years?
Yeah, first of all, Abby's a great girl. Comes from a really great family. She played basketball growing up, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. Her mom actually was one of our youth coaches, but I know they felt like, come about 7th grade, she kind of needed to make a decision. I don't think many student athletes probably need to make that decision, but in her case, obviously she, made a choice that was good for her. Her, when you're talking a potential high level Division I player. That was kind of where her aspirations were. And, obviously it's worked out for her, and if you look at kind of Addison on our side, that is in all likelihood going to be, a very good Division I player. I'm sure there's other sports, around campus that would love to have her as well, but her ambition is on the basketball court. So, it works both ways. We would have loved to have had Abby, but I think, looking at her success and volleyball success and our success, I think it's probably worked out fine for everybody.
Pun intended. I want you to picture a world where in that paint, you've got Lovey and you got Abby, and you guys are Sherwin-Williams because you just own that paint everywhere you go.
Don't upset me now. You're making me sad. So certainly. I mean, she's so athletic. She would excel, I think, at just about anything. Just like several of our girls, would as well. But I'm really happy for Abby, and definitely wishing her good luck at Pitt.
Coach, we can't thank you enough. Can't wait to see you tonight. The most entertaining team in the entire network. Certainly going to be on full display tonight when you take on Liberty. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you. You're always welcome here on the show, and certainly anything we can do for you. Brother, you got it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you guys letting me kind of spotlight our program and our girls, and looking forward to seeing you tonight.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much. There he goes. Head coach Aaron Blatch of the Crestview Lady Rebels. They look to continue their role through the MVAC tonight, 8-0 in that conference, which is a good basketball conference. But again, like he talked about, they've got to challenge themselves. And, he's a straight shooter too. We've had 2 straight shooters on this show so far as guests today. And I'll tell you what, one of the best to do it, Aaron Blatch. And I loved his response. I loved his answer to what is a tough question. And it's a tough question that you get, that I get, and I'm sure he gets constantly about the adversity that he gets, the criticism that his program gets, and he gets as a coach and a coaching staff. And he handled it well because he was straight. He said, listen, we've got to do what's best for our team. And
exactly.
I've told you time and time again, I'm a believer in that, because at the varsity level, you've got to be able to match up. And it's not the other team's job to back down or to slow down necessarily to cater to the other team.
And I think a lot of the people just see the scores. They don't watch the games. They don't understand like the things that he does to try to, respect his opponent. Like he said, there are things that, like, he's not being obnoxious about these scores. It's not like he's full court pressing with his 5 starters in the fourth quarter up by 50.
No,
and I think people just look at the scores, don't look at the game, and just assume that he's running it up on purpose and showing people up. But that's just not the case. If you ever watch his teams, his programs, his coaching style, you would know in a heartbeat that that's just not what's happening.
And to his credit, to his point, he's been on the other side of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
They've been a building program this entire time, and that's not a reason to obliterate teams. But again, to go where he wants to go and where this team wants to go, they can't slow down. They're not going to get any better by playing down to their opponent. They've got to play up to their potential. And I think that's what Aaron Blatch has done a phenomenal job of, not just this season, but moving up. And there's a lot of people that'll point to this or that or the other thing. You know what happens when they're pointing at the scoreboard, Ant, is that there's not a whole lot wrong with your team. And that's the only thing they have. And there's always going to be critics, no matter what you do in life. And leaders have to get used to it and understand it and get thicker skin because of it. And he's done that, and he's protecting his team in that capacity, which I think makes him, again, one of the best coaches this area has to offer.
I think he also does a good job of taking that criticism and not letting it get into his team either. Like, he takes it, he stands in front as a human shield, and he's the one that hears it. He doesn't let anyone get past him and start to criticize the players, which could be very detrimental. If 16, 17-year-olds are hearing the criticism, that can be a little bit more weighing on them than it is for a very experienced head coach.
Agreed, my friend. We're going to take a break. We come back. Ladies and gentlemen, Scotty Mencher joins us. And it's going to be all brought to you thanks to our friends at Toyota of Warren. Head on over, see Tino and the whole gang over there. Get a new or used vehicle. the Tundra's out there, the YSN Tundra just sitting out there. I can't get a car wash right now. It's too freaking cold to get a car wash. So it's dirty as dirty can be. But I know that it is going to run. It is going to get me from point A to B and in luxury and style, because that's the way they do it at Toyota of Warren. Thanks to our friends over there for continuing to sponsor what we do here at YSN. We'll be back with Scotty Mincher, Anthony Hartwig, DJ Yoakley right after this.
We believe expectations are made to be exceeded. At the new Toyota of Warren, it's about more than just getting a great deal. It's about service you can count on and a friendship you can trust. Year after year, we've done what we do best. We've gone the extra mile so you could too. Because we know it's just not about buying a new car. It's the start of a new adventure. Toyota of Warren, driven by you.
It means the world to me to know that what we're doing is impacting people. And whether it's simply, I got to watch my son or daughter when I was out of town, or we just love watching YSN, we love what you do for our son or daughter. So whenever someone says thank you or someone is appreciative of what we're doing, it tells me everyone at YSN is doing what we initially set out to do, which is shine a light on these athletes and help them kind of promote themselves. My name's Anthony Hartwig, and my sports network is your sports network. Who was that on that commercial?
Man. That's a good-looking young man on that commercial, man. I got to say. That was a long
He's
time
aged
ago,
a little bit. He's aged a little bit.
Yeah, he's all busted up. He's got a busted up shoulder. He's got one wing left. That's it, man.
That's it.
If you were a chicken, you'd be dead.
He'd be in trouble.
He'd be in a wolf in the hen house. He'd be dead. You'd be the one they give up. The one that nobody will ever take the fight out of is our next guest. A gentleman I haven't seen for a long time, since 2025 has begun. The rolling regulator himself, ladies and gentlemen, a descendant of Ray Boom Boom Mancini. It is the return of Scotty Mincher. What up, Scooter?
Man, do I feel special? What a hell of an intro. Thank you.
Where are you right now?
I'm at my parents' house today.
Is your dad sleeping?
Purple Cat. No, he's working.
Yeah, I know. I think we all know what he's doing. He's out there shooting on that Papa shot, trying to break break his records.
Yeah, he's very, very competitive. So he's still trying to set a score that he thinks you won't be able to match. But I love watching you guys go at it. That's for sure.
Chasing ghosts, man. He's chasing ghosts right now. Scotty, Happy New Year to you. It's been a while since you and I have got together. What's new and exciting, and I guess the first question I got to start here, unfortunately for you, what do you take away from your Cleveland Browns season this year?
Oh man, it was pretty dreadful. I'm glad I didn't pick them to win the Super Bowl this year.
One more year, pal.
I only have one more year left. So, they better find their Jaden Daniels in the draft. That's all I have to say.
Not a whole lot of those guys out there, huh?
Yeah. I don't know about. It doesn't seem like people are as high on Cam Ward or Shador, so I just don't know for the Browns.
Last time you guys took a guy from Miami, didn't really pan out. He was a soldier, but he didn't have much soul to him, I guess.
No, he did not. At first, when you first said that, I thought you were talking about QBs, and I thought of Bernie.
No, I would never say that about Bernie Kosar, a friend of the program. No way.
Yeah, I know Bernie's. He was a winner, even though the Browns didn't quite get to where they wanted to go. He had him as a contender just about every year he was there. But yeah, I don't know. it's not a great situation to be in. Just that Watson contract. It's just, as of now, I mean, it's hard to argue that it might be the worst contract in the history of the NFL.
Hey, the Broncos showed you the path, though. They showed you the path. It's you can do it, but you've got to draft the right guys. You got to have the right leadership intact. But it'll be interesting to see what obviously the Browns do. We got plenty of time to talk about the Browns. I just wanted to bust your chops a little bit before we got started. From a standpoint of, you and I are, well, 2 out of the 3 of us are still or are now freshly anointed in Cancun, essentially, watching other teams play. Who's got you excited, Scotty? Who's the team that you really like watching and you hope takes it all?
I really enjoyed the Commanders and the run they've been on. I always kind of had a soft spot for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, I'm not gonna pick them with Anthony here. I have had, I think it might be their time maybe to break through, but going against Pat Mahomes in Kansas City, I mean, we've all seen what that's been like before for the Bills. So I guess when you look at this last 4, my matchup, the matchup I wanted to see can no longer happen because that was Bills Lions, but that can no longer happen. So I want to see these games go down to the wire, and I don't really have like a dog in the fight at this point, but I just want to see great football, and I think they're going to be pretty good games, both games. I don't see a blowout either way, so that's all you can ask for if your team isn't in it. You want to be entertained. So, but I wanted to ask you, DJ, because there's been a lot of chatter and there was stuff going around out there that I think I saw a story that the Chicago Bears tried to trade for Mike Tomlin. Where are you as far as Mike Tomlin goes, and just your opinion on the Steelers as an organization? Obviously, it didn't end the way you wanted, but with Mike Tomlin, it just feels like the Steelers, they're never going to bottom out. But what do you think it's going to take for the Steelers to get to that next level, to go from a pretty good team and a playoff team to a real contender? And where are you right now? Because I know you were a big Mike Tomlin fan. You've been a big fan of his, but are you one of those fans that you think maybe it's time to change things up a little bit?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, one that I've had to kind of sort out myself. But what I keep coming back to is essentially until Mike Tomlin is protecting the quarterback or not protecting the quarterback in this particular case, I don't think it's his fault. And until you get a quarterback, it's not his fault, because at the end of the day, we said it before, and I was advocating for both quarterbacks, talking out of both sides of my mouth the entire season, rooting for them with my heart. If you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none. And that's a situation you're in. And I don't think that they used Justin Fields necessarily how he could potentially be effective. But I don't think that falls on Tomlin necessarily. I think that they were and this is my conspiracy theorist situation coming out. I think they were trying to keep the number low on Justin Fields so they could lock him up for the next 2 to 3 years. The number that I keep hearing is $15 to $20 million a year for Justin Fields. And I think if you get Justin Fields for that number, lock him up for as many years as you possibly can, given the current rate of quarterbacks. What's Mahomes going for right now?
He's half a billion, 50, 500 million.
Yeah. So you got $50 million a year quarterbacks that are out there. If you can get a quarterback that has mobility, which is one thing that I've seen a trend on, I think every quarterback that's left, for the last 2 rounds has had mobility. Then you spend that, $80 to $100 million total over the next 5 years on a Justin Fields and hope for the best. And maybe you draft a quarterback. Does Quinn Ewers fall in the draft? Does Will Howard fall in the draft to you to where you have, a quarterback that you could plan on for the future? I don't know necessarily I want to roll the dice on an Ohio State quarterback necessarily right now. I think the jury's still out on Ohio State quarterbacks playing at the next level. We saw a lot from CJ Stroud, but I don't know, Scotty. I don't blame it on Mike Tomlin. I think he's got his fair share of the entire pot to blame. But I don't think it falls just on his shoulders. I think that this is as much as Steeler fans don't want to say, this is a reclamation project. I think the GM switch from Kevin Colbert to Omar Khan is going to take some time to get him and some of the guys that he wants. You've got guys that are playing out of position. The Broderick Jones experiment is if that guy goes to left tackle and he stinks the way he does at right tackle and he's pulling on the wrong plays, like we saw in that Baltimore game, he's done. George Pickens, who knows what they're going to do with him? I don't know. I just don't. I know Steeler fans are tired of we didn't lose this season. Yeah, but you didn't win either. And a lot of programs, a lot of the different organizations, that's going to be good enough. But I think I can say for, and I'm not trying to be, a prude here. That's not good enough for a team that's got the most Super Bowls, in NFL history. We want to win Super Bowls. That's where the standard is that Mike Tomlin talks about. And obviously he's not happy about, being knocked out in the first round either, especially by, a team that you don't like very much in the Baltimore Ravens. So, but hey, I'll be the Steeler fan for a second. They're not playing for the championship either. Ayo.
What do you think of Pickens? Do you think he's been worth kind of the headlines and the buzz that he has created since he's been with the Steelers? Because I kind of think like you have to give Mike Tomlin credit for getting the best out of Antonio Brown when he got it out of him before like Antonio Brown just went bonkers. So I give him credit there. And I kind of think I think Pickens can mature. And as much as you talk about the quarterback, and I agree with you, DJ, like that's the bottom line. If you're going to take it to the next level, you got to find one of those guys in the league, especially, playing in the AFC North or in the AFC in general. But I do think he made a lot of splash big time plays. And I think if you get another like type 1 receiver, like one of the best receivers in the league, I think you could really have something with that offense.
Yeah. So all we have to do is, go out and get one of the best receivers in the league, which is pretty easy to do with, their price tag. Like that's crazy talk, right? And that's dreamer talk, because very rarely are you going to have 2 of the top 10 receivers in the league on one roster, right? Very rarely are you going to have that. I think Cincinnati has it right now, arguably with T. Higgins, who's probably going to be leaving town, somewhere else. I guess, Scotty, the thing that I agree with you on is if the Steelers were to get another primetime receiver, George Pickens would look even better than he does right now. The problem is, I don't think that he shares very well. I think he's got a discipline problem. I think you can put lipstick on a pig, but I don't think you're ever going to be able to truly calm down George Pickens to the point where he's going to be manageable in the locker room. I think he's going to be a problem if he doesn't get the ball. I think he's going to be a problem if he does get the ball. We've seen that. We've seen in the middle of the season, he was complaining about Justin Fields. And then all of a sudden, Russell Wilson comes in and he loves Russell Wilson until he doesn't get the ball as much as he wants. And then he's a problem again. He's a problem. He's a problem. And, do the Steelers move on from him? Well, the problem is they don't have another receiver. Like, is Van Jefferson going to step up in a situation and be your guy? Or do you go back to having no receivers again? The Steelers have done a great job of pointing out that, finding receivers in the draft, Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace. But I've told you before, Scotty, that I don't think that necessarily Antonio Brown was as good as a receiver as Ben Roethlisberger was a quarterback at making him that good of a receiver. Mike Wallace went on big money, didn't do anything. And Emmanuel Sanders, I think, is the only one remotely that you can look at and say that he had a successful career post Ben Roethlisberger. I think that the main thing is Ben Roethlisbergers don't grow on trees. Neither did Josh Allen's, neither did Patrick Mahomes, neither did Tom Brady's. These other organizations are going to have a challenging time replacing these quarterbacks that they have. I mean, the Buffalo Bills, what were they before Josh Allen? Not much. What were the Kansas City Chiefs without Patrick Mahomes? What are the Patriots now without Tom Brady? Drake May's probably a really good quarterback, but I think that they're going to have a hell of a time trying to win. Now, I think Vrabel's a big difference maker up there. I would sign up right now if Mike Vrabel was the coach of the Steelers. I'd sign up, and I think he'd sign up for that, knowing that he's probably got some security. But that's not going to happen. I might as well wish, for a lot of other things along the way. But, I think quarterbacks are dominating this league. I think that's where it starts and that's where it finishes. The Steelers had the biggest they spent the most on defense out of anybody in the NFL, the most expensive defense. And what did that do for them down the stretch? They stunk. I mean, Baltimore absolutely throttled them. You need a quarterback. You need a quarterback, plain and simple.
I want to get Anthony engaged in this too, but another thing.
Nobody wants to talk about the Chiefs.
There's Chiefs fatigue, right?
Another thing I was just curious about, DJ, as an outsider. I mean, as much as you can, because I know, there's always going to be a little bit of blood boiling when, the Browns Steelers thing. I think it's just part of our, our makeup. You only want to invest so much time looking at that side. But as a Steelers fan, what's your opinion of Kevin Stefanski? Because I feel like he's polarized the Browns fan base. Like, there's a lot of fans that think he's the most overrated two-time coach of the year ever, and he should have been fired after this season. And then there's fans that think it wasn't, he's won and he's had success, and most of it was just Deshaun Watson playing at a really, really bad level. Do you think the Browns, what are your thoughts on Stefanski? Do you think the Browns could do better? Do you think they made a mistake in letting Vrabel interview and then getting hired by the Patriots and not just trying to hire him to replace Stefanski?
I don't think the plan was ever to hire Vrabel. I think it was to bring him in, to pick his brain, to get some of the culture maybe that they had in New England that nobody had access to in that camp in Cleveland. I think they knew they couldn't keep him back from getting that New England job. I think that this has been the plan all along for Vrabel. It was either, and call me crazy, it was either going to be Ohio State if Day lost in the CFP, or it was going to be the New England job. There were no other paths for Mike Vrabel. I know that some of the conversation when Tomlin was on the hot seat was potentially he goes to Pittsburgh. That's not necessarily their MO. They usually hire some young unknown coach. Typically, they did it for Cowher. They did it for Tomlin. I don't think that would fit what the Steelers do, or the Steeler way, as people say. But I think that the Browns did what they could, and they were trying to change the culture in that locker room. They brought in Mike Vrabel. I think in years to come, you're going to hear that culture was rejected, because you look at what Vrabel does. If you listen to or watch the Pat McAfee broadcast, or you listen to Michael Lombardi or Bill Belichick, even, he is one step away from Bill Belichick, and nobody loved playing for Bill Belichick. You know what they loved? They loved winning, and they loved winning Super Bowls, because everybody's price tag goes up when you win Super Bowls, from a marketing standpoint, from an NFL standpoint, everything, right? But it sucks playing for them, because they will grind you out, and they know every letter of the law when it comes to the rule book, your contracts, how to facilitate players, but they win. And I think that when you have some of the people, I'm not going to name any names, when you have some of the people that are in that Cleveland Browns locker room, and even in the Steelers locker room, they're going to reject it because they're very comfortable. And they're very, very comfortable. I think what Cleveland's going to find out in the next year or two with Myles Garrett is that he wants to play for a winner. And I think you started to see the cracks show towards the end of that season when I don't know if you caught the Hard Knocks episode, when he talked to, was it Rosengarten from Baltimore, and he's saying, sucks, we stink or whatever. And then he's like, no, man, you can't talk about yourself like that. This is a team that wins. And he's made point after point in conversations of, I want to play for a winner. So Cleveland's got to make a decision. They got to go all in on trying to get a winner, or they're going to go all out on Myles Garrett. And I think that's going to be a problem, because that's the glue right now that's holding everything together. The same way that Roethlisberger did for the Steelers, Myles Garrett is doing for the Browns. And if, as much of a you-know-what show as it is right now, if they lose Myles Garrett, Scotty, I think what the expectations go down to.
Yeah, it's just a big-time domino effect. And that's the thing that I think is important for the Browns is Myles Garrett. He's a cornerstone, in my mind, I don't remember the 80s era and Clay Matthews and stuff like that, but he's the best player on defense probably in the history of the Browns franchise. So you want to keep those cornerstones happy, and that's why I just don't. It's always good to have a veteran as well. That's why I think the Browns, and call me crazy here too, because I know a lot of people were super out on them at the end of this past season, but I think it would be advantageous for the Browns to inquire about somebody like a Kirk Cousins, who they could get for the league minimum. You sign him you give him a year or a 2-year deal, something like that, and then you draft and develop another quarterback, because we all know it's very unlikely with Deshaun re-injuring, tearing his Achilles again. He's not playing at all in 2025, and he's probably done for his career with the Browns. So I think you got to get to a point where you don't have to get to a point where you have the ultimate franchise quarterback and you're going to have this elite quarterback starting next year, but you have to have a guy that's competent and that could maybe get you into those important games and get you back in the mix of the playoffs, because with Deshaun Watson, they weren't anywhere close to that. And and I know he didn't have a great year this year, but I said it at the beginning of the season, DJ, the Browns made a mistake. They should have brought Joe Flacco back.
No.
Because
and do what? And he got benched in Indy.
I know this, but
what would he do in Cleveland?
I think there was something there, and he had the team playing with fire. I know he's past his prime, but he would. I think he would have had them in the mix for. I'm not saying like
for what?
For a wild card spot.
Shut up. Stop it. Stop it. Wouldn't he have done the same thing in Indianapolis with a better running game, arguably a same defense on par in a worse conference? Or I'm sorry, in a worse division?
Well, Indy was in them. They were in the playoff mix till the last week or two of the year.
Not with him in charge.
But he played in a chunk of those games.
He got benched twice.
He did, but it wasn't like Anthony Richardson was lighting the world on fire either. I mean, they both kind of contributed to the Colts' success and lack of success.
I'm telling you right now, I love Cleveland fans are going to build a statue of Joe Flacco over one season that he did not deliver you a playoff win. I don't know. You probably could have got anybody in that situation. Pick a quarterback, any quarterback, to deliver what Joe Flacco did. You just needed a pocket quarterback. And, that was the one thing that when you played the Browns, you were playing a team that had a mobile quarterback. And to change your entire, game plan, your scheme for Joe Flacco was very challenging in that because you had a lot of mobile pieces in that. And, you could still, if you wanted to, if you're the Browns, you could still move him out and put, DTR in there and really mess up schemes. But they couldn't stop Joe Flacco because that's not who the Cleveland Browns were. And I think everybody was sitting there thinking, Joe Flacco is not going to beat us. Like, we're not going to let this geriatric, gunslinger throw the ball all over us. And he did. And that's what it was. And it was a great defense. We've talked about this. That defense kept you in a lot of games, the same way that the Steelers had that defense. That's AFC North football. But you were not going to beat Josh Allen. You were not going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You were not going to beat the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. I mean, you just weren't. It wasn't going to happen. But Joe Flacco is like Davy Crockett, in Cleveland. It's incredible. They're going to build statues of this guy who beat them for years with another franchise. But for one season, he delivered them into the playoffs and then got his turds tossed in Houston by a team that was arguably
a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, by a rookie quarterback who, again, love Cleveland when it comes to that because anybody that plays for Ohio State would look better in brown and orange. Like that, it doesn't matter. There's so many people right now calling for Justin Fields in Cleveland take him. Take him. Go. You can have him. Because I don't know what his ceiling is, but I know where his floor is, and it's not very high. Like it's low. So, it's crazy. It's the same thing that Steelers people do, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, if Will Howard falls to us, then he's going to be the next Tom Brady." Probably not. Probably not. Just like JJ McCarthy is going to get traded to the Steelers. Probably not. Like it's not going to happen. Sam, do you think Sam Darnold and Joe Flacco are equals?
I think they're kind of at this point in their career, they're close to in the same.
Joe Flacco and Sam Darnold.
I mean, Darnold was pretty horrible. He got exposed those last couple games. As soon as they played big time games on national TV, he turned into a pumpkin.
You mean playoff games, essentially?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I'm not saying that's my whole point, DJ, is I'm not saying the Browns would have been – it's crazy to call them a Super Bowl contender. But if they start Flacco all season, maybe they're not totally out of it by week 6 or 7, and they're out of it, in week 15. They get – I mean – Deshaun Watson, and I know you guys know this because you're big-time fans, there were a lot of metrics where he wasn't only the worst quarterback in the NFL. Some of those games he put up in the QBRs were among the worst, I think, in NFL history. Some of the QBRs he put up early in the season. So there is no way somebody like Joe Flacco would be close to that bad, is all I'm saying. But the other thing is, and I totally agree with you in this, like it's easy. Like my dad will go, we never should have traded Baker, and what a huge mistake. And it was a mistake, but at the same time, I don't think Baker Mayfield, I just don't think him in the AFC North, I don't think things would be much different.
Nope, I disagree. The fans turned on Baker, the locker room turned on Baker, and that's when Baker turned his back on the city of Cleveland. That's what happened. Because everybody fell in love with Miles. Everybody fell in love with OBJ. Everybody fell in love with Jarvis Landry. Because guess what? Baker was the franchise. Baker had all the commercials. He had everything. He was the Patrick Mahomes of the AFC North. And nobody liked that because it wasn't them. It wasn't that. I mean, it is what it is. It's business, right? And that's why the NFL is so interesting, because there's business. And Patrick Mahomes, for love him or hate him, shares it with his coach, shares it with his tight end. I'm sure Pacheco could get, in the State Farm commercial. I mean, I think there's a punter. Yeah,
the punter gets in the State Farm commercial.
Yeah, there's a commercial for what, Lay's right now or Doritos or something, that he's got many of his teammates in there and he's getting them checks. Baker, he was going to get his check. He was going to get paid. I don't think that, where's Myles Garrett in these commercials? I think there was a lot of jealousy in Cleveland during that time because you had a lot of different egos and they couldn't fit through the door. And Baker was the first one out because all the things that he couldn't do or wouldn't do. And, it has nothing to do with Baker couldn't play in the AFC North. Like, you constantly tell me about the shellacking that the Browns gave the Steelers. He did just fine in that wild card game, right?
He did. What's he done in Tampa Bay? Like, he hasn't won anything there.
Won a division.
He threw for 41 freaking touchdowns, Scotty. Would you trade Baker Mayfield and 41 touchdowns for whatever shitty quarterback you have in Cleveland right now?
Of course, but I was agreeing with your point of just like with a Baker and with a past his prime Joe Flacco, and even like you said with.
Okay, let's play. Let's play. Would you rather Baker or Joe Flacco?
I would take Baker because he's younger and better at this point in his career.
Baker or we just talked about him.
Sam
quarterback.
Darnold.
Yeah, Sam Darnold. Thank you.
Probably Baker because
They're probably going to be about the same. $30-40 million a piece.
Yeah, probably Baker.
I mean, you can probably go get Joe Flacco for, a couple bags of footballs at this point. If you really think Joe Flacco is the answer, you get him some Activia and a bag of footballs, and he's probably yours.
I mean, he's not horrible.
You take Joe Flacco right now, right this second. Sign him up. He can be your quarterback one moving forward into 2025.
I think I would take him, because you don't have to pay him that much.
And your visions of Super Bowl. That's your expectation.
My vision is being competitive again in the North, and
so you got to get to the wild card. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just Joe Flacco delivered you to the wild card game in 2025.
I think
he's 40.
Especially if the Browns defense gets back on the level they were playing in 2023.
And how are they going to do that with Joe Flacco at the helm? How does he help your defense? Just not turn it over?
Because no, he'll still turn it over. That's part of the gunslinger. But he won't. The defense won't be on the field as much. With Deshaun, they were 3 and out. It was like a broken record.
So they're not going to be on the field as much, but he's going to turn it over
more.
He's
going to turn the ball over.
You're actually better if Deshaun Watson goes 3 and out because you're punting it away as opposed to an instant turnover.
Yeah, but he went 3 and out so much that the defense was exhausted. At least with Flacco, they would score. It'd be like it'd almost be like what we saw this year with Jameis. It'd be he's being the Jameis Winston type class. Maybe.
And how did it go for Jameis Winston?
Jameis Winston.
It didn't go great, but again,
so why don't you just keep Jameis Winston? He's younger and he's more entertaining. Because the one thing that I heard from Browns fans over everything this year was, well, at least the games are fun to watch because Jameis Winston's throwing the ball all over the yard until he throws pick sixes. He's giving away touchdowns like Santa Claus.
Yeah, but again, like my last point on this, what great options are there's not like Patrick, like you said, Patrick Mahomes and Ben Roethlisberger's, Josh Allen's don't grow on trees. So
well, but you're telling me that you guys don't need a QB1 necessarily. You just need someone to manage the game. There's going to be a little guy that wasn't far down the road that's going to be available for a price. His name's Russell. He cooks and he does awesome Instagrams. You can also get Kirk Cousins. You can also, there's potential, and there's Super Bowl championship and Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks out there for price. But instead it's Jameis Winston and Joe Flacco again, you guys are going to build a statue of this old man who led you to the wild card round and pooped his pants. He pooped his Depends. Right there in Houston.
I agree with you. He did, but
you want him back. You want him back.
I mentioned Kirk Cousins too earlier. That was my first choice.
But Sam Darnold is not as good as Kirk Cousins.
he is, but he's gonna be way more expensive. I don't think the Browns could afford him with the cap situation. I don't know if they can.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Since we've kept Anthony out of the last 30 minutes of conversation, Anthony, do you have any final thoughts before we get to the Joe Dickey Electric? What's your spark?
No, then this is fun. Yeah, I know you two haven't seen each other in a while, so I don't mind letting you guys hash it out as you always do when you guys get together. Final thoughts is, Scotty, I don't know what to tell you. I think we've talked about the Browns a lot in our segments. That Deshaun Watson move really kind of put your franchise back a few years, and it might take a while to find a guy that's going to get you to, that level that you want to be at. You're going to have to be patient again.
Real quick, Han. I think this is Chiefs Bills 4. I think this is number 4 in the play. So, what are your early thoughts about this one?
It's gonna be a good one. It always is when these two get together, because you look at the last playoff meetings, they could have gone either way. Bills missed a field goal to tie up the game last year, and then the time before it was that 13 seconds game where Mahomes got them in field goal range to tie up the game in 13 seconds. And the one before that, we kind of beat him up, but I think that was before Josh Allen really hit his stride. So I think Josh Allen knows how to beat Kansas City. He's done it 4 times in the regular season. He's just going to have to try to, jump that hurdle this time. Hopefully he doesn't.
Yeah,
but he has played good enough to beat Kansas City in his last 2 playoff games. He just, things didn't go his way. He had some snake bitten luck.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think it's gonna be a great game. I honestly think the NFC game is gonna be great as well, but we'll see. Hopefully, I'm not wrong. But DJ, it was so great getting this to see you and talk to you again. Yeah, man. So you're please no more washed up QBs. Pay a guy, we need a real one.
Rob Johnson chiming in. Oh, by the way, we got to get this too. Scotty, Anthony, and DJ, where do you guys rank the 2024 Ohio State football national championship squad with the other Ohio State national championship teams prior to 2024?
Well, wow.
Well, the ones in my lifetime, it's still at the bottom, because it's not going to beat when they beat Miami, because that was my juggernaut Miami team that everyone thought
Craig Krenzel
was going to roll in that game, and Craig Krenzel comes out of nowhere and just has the game of his life. And I really think that year where they beat Alabama is going to live on for a long time too. So in the ones in my lifetime, at least, I would put it at the bottom. It was still good. It was still, you had to go through a playoff bracket instead of just 2 games, which I think is impressive.
See, I'm going to go the Tressel team, this team, and then Urban Meyer's team.
Okay.
I agree with you. I think Tressel's team had a lot more grit. They didn't necessarily have the talent, but they would keep the football for an absurd amount of time and force you to make a mistake, which they did time and time again. And I think the Urban Meyer team, not incredibly talented, obviously more firepower, but remember, they had 12 gauge. They had a backup quarterback that led them to the national championship. This team was just incredibly talented. And I think, we talked about it yesterday, and when push comes to shove, I think if they keep the hammer down that entire second half, it would be unwatchable football on ABC or ESPN, whatever you watched it on.
45-7.
Yeah, I think they just took the foot off the gas, and it could have been a lot worse. It could, because I watched the highlights after we had our show yesterday, and I'm like, I don't want to take or disrespect Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame was as much to do about those points in the second half as Ohio State gave that away, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Ohio State opened the door, and then Notre Dame kicked it in to get back in the game.
Scotty, how about you?
Make the plays to walk through, but
I would, this one, because they were so talented, and I just felt like, they could have easily won it. I just felt like those games in the season against Oregon and Michigan, they kind of coughed them up. Because this team was just so talented, I would rank it last in my lifetime. I mean, it was still special. It was fun, especially, losing that last game and, them coming out really angry, and you could see their intensity picked up after that loss to Michigan. But that Tressel season was magical. For me, that'll always be number one, not just because they won the title, but they were just such a great defense that year. They won so many close games. It seemed like every game you were on the edge of your seat that season. And then the Urban Meyer season, we were down to our third quarterback, and a lot of people didn't expect us to beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten title, let alone win it. I just think, it was a good championship, but I think stories are a part of the ride too. And was it the best story? I think it was last in comparison to the Tressel and Urban Meyer era. And I know, DJ, you kind of soured on the Bucks after what happened with Tressel's tenure.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, I don't know, that team, I think you said it, DJ, the 0-2 team, they did it with a lot of grit and heart. And it just seemed like this team, it was fun, but you knew they were probably the best team in college football. It was just a question of, are they going to get it done?
You want to know what I've been thinking the last, 3 days now? Is if that championship doesn't happen in 2002 with Tressel, or Jim Tressel does not coach the Ohio State Buckeyes, there is no 15, there is no 25 championship teams. Jim Tressel brought it all back, and they turned their back on him. And I will most likely always have disdain for what that university did to our guy, my hero, for as long as I live. It doesn't mean that I'll never cheer for the Buckeyes again. Just means that I'm always going to have that devil on my left shoulder and the angel on my right shoulder talking about what they did to our guy. So with what he did for that university, and still does to this day, every time they make that phone call to him, to Jim Tressel. I don't think this team is national championship quality without him. I think he brought it back full circle, and Ohio State is what Ohio State is because of Jim Tressel. Take it or leave it. That's my opinion. But I think that Urban Meyer did what Urban Meyer always does for, I'm not trying to disrespect him. He's not a great recruiter. He goes to places that have a lot of talent. He wins. And then when that talent dissipates, so does his contract. So Ryan Day, I got a lot more respect for him now than I did 5 days ago. I'll tell you that right now. Not just because he won a state or a national championship, because of the way that he taught people to fight through adversity that are going through it. I'm a big adversity and leadership guy. And like I said yesterday, the day before, his guys played for him. I think he was the rallying point around this season, was having to put an armed guard at his house to protect his family. A lot of the guys rallied around him, which whatever it takes, right? He's you'll always have to say national championship coach Ryan Day for the rest of his life. So
yeah,
more comments. Yeah, thanks.
More
Rob. Appreciate you. All right, we're going to wrap this up with the Joe Dickey Electric What's Your Spark, presented by Joe Dickey Electric. They are everything electrical, and you can visit them right now 24/7, 365 at DickeyElectric.com. All right, Scotty, you're up first. I'm trying to hold back a cough. Sorry.
So my spark for today, I think it's gotta be. I think for today, I just gotta go with, just being back. I'm with Anthony every week, but just getting to be back with a trio and being back on the show with you, DJ. It had been a while, first time in 2025. So I always like conversing with you and just, having a great time talking about one of the best things there is, and that's sports, because it unites us and brings us together. It makes a lot of things whole, even if you're going through a rough time. Sports is always like a medicine. So yeah, that's my spark.
And
my spark is that we have more consistent basketball on the network today. We had 2 rough days where weather took out almost everything, and while there are still some games that are postponed tonight, there's a lot more than we've had in the last 2 days. So we're starting to get back to normal, which is always nice.
I like that as well. You stole mine. Thank you for that. So now I got to come up with one on the spot. And mine is tune in tonight. We got a doubleheader for you, at least one doubleheader for you on the network. Excited to have the Crestview girls, Aaron Blatch, showing up earlier to talk about his Crestview team. They will be on full display against Liberty tonight, and then Southeast boys and Crestview boys going at it. I'll have all of the action for you starting around 5:30 or so right here on the network, to kind of double up on what Anthony said. More consistency back on the network. I think we're going to see more games tomorrow, I believe, as we this frigid cold hopefully goes away a little bit, or at least we get accustomed to it. We can get back to business per usual. So great show today, guys. Ant, wonderful job. A lot of interviews, a lot of content on the show that we will put on ysnlive.com. If you missed anything from today's show, you can always go back and watch it on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Twitch, or I think that's it. So do that, or we're going to cut these up and make, consumable content pieces on ysnlive.com as well. For Anthony, for Scotty, I'm DJ. This second half of the show has been brought to you thanks to our friends at Toyota of Warren. Again, say hi to Tino and the whole crew over at Toyota of Warren, and let them know that YSN sent you. From all of us to all of you, stay warm, stay excited, and stay locked on to ysnlive.com. See you tomorrow. YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of your sports network. For stories, stats, and more, go to ysnlive.com.